welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast hosted by me, Joanne Murphy. Whether you are an athlete, adventurer, endurance enthusiast, or simply have an interest in sport, you've come to the right place for inspiration, encouragement, motivation, and as always, plenty of entertainment. I am lapping up the sunshine here in Lanzarote at the moment. I've been here since last week, and despite a dodgy few days of weather at the start of the trip, the sun has come out and the wind has calmed down quite a bit. I clocked up a few nice miles on the bike with the Galway Tri Club crew last week, and on Monday of this week, Oma Tri Club put me through my paces on a lovely 90k spin across the island. This is the first time I've been based up at Costa Teguise and have loved getting to see more of this end of the island. I've been tipping away with my swimming and a little bit of running too. My poor legs don't know what's going on. It's busy here at Sands Beach Resort and I have seen lots of familiar faces, and it's been so much fun to finally meet some of the people I've been swifting with for the past 2 years and enjoy an in-person real life cycle with them. Great to see Oliver Harkin in person out here too. We've been hosting the Monday night Swift Spin every week for almost 2 years and hadn't seen each other in real life for quite a while. Prior to coming out to Lanzarote, I had a busy week with Women in Sport Week. The Triathlon Ireland webinar was a big hit during the week and hugely inspiring to hear the stories and successes of the Beyond the Finish Line advocates. We also gave away 4 entries for the Bear events Joe Duffy BMW Clontarf Half Marathon and 5 Mile. Congratulations to Pamela Kane and Emma Jo Whitehead, winners of the entries on our Facebook and Instagram pages. Emma Porter has also been officially welcomed to Try Talking Sport to help support the development of the Performance Hub and the Try Talking Sport website. So keep an eye out for lots more articles, content and events in the coming weeks. This weekend sees the final virtual event in the Castle Race Series for 2022. We have a 25% discount on all Castle Race Series events in Ireland and the UK, including the virtual event this weekend. Use the code TTS252022 on www.castleraceseries.com to avail of the discount. I mentioned I've been putting my legs to all sorts of cycling, running and swimming activities here in Lanzarote, and I can safely say that the Nuasand CBD muscle gel has been brilliant for my legs. I put it on every night to help with recovery from the day's antics and wake up with legs like new every morning. If you fancy giving it a go, use the code TTS15 to get 15% discount on it and all the other products available on the site. Go on, you'll be pleasantly surprised by the products. Check them out on www.nuasand.com. Now to this week's episode with Damian Browne and Fergus Farrell, 2 lifelong friends who plan to row the Atlantic Ocean from New York to Galway in an extreme challenge that will test not only their friendship but their fitness resilience and also challenge them mentally, physically and emotionally. Taking on the mammoth task in May of this year, they are each no stranger to uphill battles, be it in sport or in life. Damian, a former guest on the podcast, is an avid extreme adventurer and explorer whose fascination the world has seen him embark on quite a few life-changing adventures. Listen to his episode, number 12 on the podcast, to get a glimpse into his life of adventure and his ability to push the boundaries to the extreme. Fergus has bravely fought a battle for his life after an accident in 2018 left him with a 5% chance of ever walking again. But battle he did. He fought hard to overcome the challenges and obstacles he faced in recovery and learning to walk again. Setting small goals along the way, he achieved his primary goal of being able to walk again, and just 2 years after his accident, he walked from Athenry in Galway to the NRH in Dublin. A journey of 206 kilometres on foot that would see him achieve a massive goal that he had set himself only weeks after his accident had left him with little hope of ever setting 2 feet on the ground again. Together, Damian and Fergus are a formidable force. Focused and determined, they have left no stone unturned in their quest to row home from America. With one eye on the successful crossing of the ocean, the other eye is on a world record that, although hasn't been broken for over 100 years, could just be within their reach. Regardless of the record, with a little luck and some kind weather from Mother Nature, a successful row across the 4,937.47 kilometres of the North Atlantic will see them enter the ocean rowing history books, and they will be the talk of their hometown of Galway for many years to come, leaving a lasting legacy for others to follow and be inspired by. Now, go grab a cuppa and enjoy the show. Damian Browne and Fergus Farrell, Team Project Empower, who plan to row the Atlantic from New York to Galway. Welcome to the podcast, Fergus for the first time and Damian for the second time. What's the story? Project Empower, tell me a little bit about it.
Hi Joanne, thanks very much. Yeah, it's great to be here again. It is another, on my part anyway, transatlantic row, but this time from, like you said, the other direction. So from New York to Galway, which is both myself and Gussie's hometown. So yeah, we're kind of very driven by the fact that, you do something really hard and you can finish up in your hometown and you can kind of have an impact there on the kind of streets you grew up in and on the current people who are walking those streets and further afield. We do have plans to push this out there as far as we can, and it's a great thing for us to do as friends, since we were about 17 or 18 when we first kind of formed that friendship, even though we've known each other since we were about 11 and 12, because that's the first time we clashed horns on a rugby pitch as two young fellas. One of Gussie playing, Fergus, aka Gussie is what I call him. Gussie playing for Monivea RFC and me playing for Go Agents RFC.
From that clashing of horns on the rugby pitch, transformed into a friendship of 20 years, where now you're going to spend 24 hours a day for up to 55 days, hopefully less than 55 days, as you row the Atlantic together. Fergus, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so 24/7, hopefully under 55 days on a boat with one other person. So our relationship has to be pretty solid, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. But like the key thing is when we come back from the road and we're arriving to Galway, that we'll come back as a kind of a unit, So it's just a matter of we're going to have to work really hard on our relationship when we're out there. It's definitely not going to be plain sailing, So it's going to be very interesting.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of maybe some of the training and how it's going to work when you're out on the boat, rowing back from America to Galway, you mentioned that you've been friends for 20 years, but life hasn't been plain sailing for you, Fergus. You had a workplace accident a couple of years ago, which left you paralysed from the belly button down, but have now come through that and now taking on this massive project. Can you talk me through maybe some of what life was like after that accident happened and how you've gotten to this point now where you can take on this mammoth project and this row?
I've been very, very lucky, from being classed as a grade A spinal cord injury to now getting the opportunity to row across the Atlantic with Damo. The journey has been, there's been obviously at the beginning there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of deep thinking. There was a lot of grey areas, but look, it's not far off after having the actual operation and lying on the bed. I did make a very conscious decision to stay positive, to show the world that I am positive, because I knew my family and my friends and my kids. If I portrayed a person who was really down on himself and upset, it would have a really bad detriment effect, on the rest of the people who were around me. So, but look, that has ultimately, paid huge dividends, because obviously I kept my own mind extremely positive, and I think that had a huge bearing on where I am now. And ultimately, throughout this whole process, I've always been setting challenges for myself to, for argument's sake, like I was told, after the operation, that if you get any sign of movement within the first 72 hours of the operation, you have a 5% chance of getting some sort of strength back. Now, that's 5%. Only 4 people in a million get a spinal cord injury, so that's 5% of 4 people. I got nothing. I was absolutely nothing. So after that, then 21 days later, got movement in my big toe in the middle of the night. And I thought I was hallucinating. Eventually, the person would come in the morning to help me go to the toilet and stuff like that, get me out of bed. I asked them, was my toe moving? And they said, yeah. So the consultants were going around the ward, St. Finbarr's down in Galway, and they came in. And his exact words was, "That's mostly unexpected." And from there, then just things took off, and that really kept me positive, because yourself, when you're moving forward and you're making progress, it's very easy to stay positive. And then I'm a huge believer that I visualized a lot, I stayed positive, and that helped with the recovery. And now, as I said, along those lines, I've set challenges, i.e. the first challenge when I got into the National Rehabilitation Hospital was, I said to myself, no, I didn't say this to people. I just said to myself, I'm going to walk out those doors. And now I did. It wasn't looking likely for a while, but I stumbled out the doors with the physio on one side of me and the aid the other side of me, which was a massive milestone. Now, little did I know that when I came back out, that I'd realise that, I might have walked out the doors with NRH, but I'm still extremely disabled. And the world around me wasn't designed to help in any way. So I went really, really down, and I did fall into a very quick depression at that stage. But thankfully, again, through my friends and family and whatnot, they dug me out of a massive hole I was in. I don't think I'd be here without them. But then again, I realized at that stage, well, what helped me in the NRH? What actually, why was I so positive leaving the NRH and then all of a sudden so depressed? And it was because I set myself a challenge within the NRH of walking out through those doors, and that helped me stay focused. I had set myself no challenge whatsoever when I got home. I was just an empty space and looking around me, seeing people doing everything that I was able to do at one stage, but not able to do anymore. So ultimately, when I got through the severe depression side, I set myself another challenge, and that was to walk across the country a year from my anniversary. And at that stage, I think I could only walk max maybe 300 or 500 meters at that time, without having to pretty much collapse. So it was a massive challenge I set myself. I think I was only about three months to give myself to walk across the country, So again, the bigger the challenge, the more I kind of raise to it, and it helps me focus. And this is exactly, this challenge. I don't know of any bigger challenge in the world, and if it's been a huge driver for me to continue to improve and get stronger and get fitter and get healthier and live a better life. So for that, I have a huge thanks for Damian to allow me to do the project with him, as it took a huge leap of faith for him to take me on. And that's how I've progressed throughout the last few years, put challenges in front of me, stay positive, and keep driving on.
It must have taken a huge toll on your life in general, Fergus, did it?
This might sound absolutely daft, okay? But the accident possibly was the best thing that has happened to me. It has had massive upheaval, but I have come out of it living a better lifestyle, a less stressful lifestyle. I now know what really matters in life, where at one time I probably was a little bit materialistic and not enough time for people and stuff like that, because everything for me was about being successful at business, and everything else was second to that, where now it's not. People are the most important thing to me in life, my family, my friends, and living kind of not putting as much pressure on myself as what I used to. So, that might, as I said, might sound daft, but ultimately, I've definitely, the accident has helped me turn my life around and live a better and definitely a more fulfilling life, and a life that I can say I'm proud of.
Yeah, sometimes it takes something as big and life-changing as an accident like that to, I suppose, get you to sit back and reflect and see on what actually matters. So congratulations on getting this far. And it's been some hell of a journey for you. Damian, I want to jump in and ask you a little bit about where you've been and what you've been up to since we spoke last, which was October 2019. You were episode number 12 of the podcast. I know you're now based in Australia, have a baby that's nearly 1 year old, that's running rings around you and showing signs of sheer curiosity and fascination with the world, just like your daddy. But where have you been and what have you been up to?
Let me think back now. October 19, so I would have been post Denali, right? And so I was at that stage. I was kind of deep in the Seven Summits project, which was for anyone who doesn't know, is to climb the highest mountain on each continent. And I probably had even finished number 5, which was Karsten's Pyramid in West Papua, Indonesia. And I was building up, I suppose, for 2020 and Mount Everest. And that was going pretty well for a while, and training was going great. And I was on what I felt in a good space. And I think it was Paddy's Day 2020. The world closed down, and that expedition was put on ice for a year. But in the interim, I met a lovely Australian girl called Roselle, and we're now the proud parents and joy-filled parents of little Ellie Nell Browne. She'll be 1 year old on 4th of April, so pretty soon. And I did get that attempt on Mount Everest in 2021, all real last minute. Literally, I left Australia 5 days after Elodie was born. It was all a bit mad. I didn't think I was going to go, and I was like dealing with the climbing company, and they knew the story, but I was like, listen, we're going to make a call on this after the birth. And then Elodie went 2 weeks over her due date, so there was all this sort of craziness happening around that. I was kind of going, yeah, this is typical, and the group I was meant to be joining was they had basically left Kathmandu to start the climb, and I was still in Brisbane, and I was like, I don't even know if I'm coming, but I want to come. And there's all this weird emotional turmoil towards something I had worked 3 years towards and put in 2 incredibly draining and difficult training blocks, and wanted to achieve in my life. And then this thing that was much bigger, right? The birth of my first child, and they were clashing totally, and I was absolutely committed to that, and been there for that, and whatever kind of myself and Roselle decided after the birth that was good for me. I was running with that. We sat down, and everything had gone well with the birth, and thankfully mother and baby were happy and healthy. So we decided I should go. I should give it a shot. And there was other factors involved here in terms of finances and that, and the fact that I had sponsors, and those sponsors had been with me since kind of 2019, 2020, and I couldn't do it. If I postponed another year, I couldn't do it in 2022 because we had Project Empower, and so it would be 2023. And I was like, sponsors will be looking for their money back, and I'd be like, I don't have your money to give you back. So there's all sorts of stuff happening with that. So anyway, I went, and that in itself was a massive roller coaster of elements or situations. Basically, I got COVID while I was there. Got evacuated off the mountain to Kathmandu, had to isolate in Kathmandu for 10 days, flew back to the mountain, tried to climb Mount Everest with COVID, basically, or the remnants of COVID, which is, respiratory disease, so not ideal for high altitude mountaineering. Eventually ended up getting myself into a state. So I struggled all the time, massive struggle throughout this first 5 or 6 weeks with altitude sickness and COVID. And then I finally got myself into a state where I was like, geez, you know what? This could actually happen. I'm starting to feel a bit stronger, start to regain some confidence. Literally the night before we were going to make our summit, the start of our summit rotation, our summit bid, we got a basically call to a meeting where we were told that all our Sherpa at Camp 2 and Camp 4 had tested positive for COVID. So they all got pulled off the mountain and retested, and sure enough, they all had COVID, so they shut the expedition down. So, that was just, it was kind of fitting to the shit show of an expedition it was. Basically after that, then it was back to Australia, and I was here for a number of months, and then flew back to Ireland there recently, and did a good training block with Gussie, and we've just been working on Project Empower and trying to bring in funding, and trying to, it's a huge expedition, and it's totally unsupported, so we're doing everything ourselves, so it's this mammoth kind of far-reaching thing, and it takes a lot of work, so we've been working away on that, and here we are. I think you're up to speed.
I don't know where to start with asking questions from now on,
right.
But I guess my first question is going to be, Damian, why did you decide to invite Fergus to be on the team for Project Empower?
Well, Gussie had said to me that he was interested in, he talked about how important challenges is to him. And honestly, I think it's really important generally to everyone, and it's a real healthy thing is to continue challenge yourself for yourself, to lift yourself up. So he had mentioned to me that he was interested in doing something. And then I think before that, I had said to him that, I was thinking of doing this row at the time, it was probably in a 4-man boat. And then when he had said it to me then that he had interest in doing it, I was like, I kind of dialed it down to a pair at that stage. And I'd asked my brother originally, and the two of us were set to do it. And then Andrew, my brother, pulled out. I had it in the back of my mind that, Gussie was somebody who was firstly interested and kind of, wanting or willing to do it. And then, his accident happened, and I just was around a little bit and watching him. And then I did the walk with him that he talked about, the 5-day walk from Athenry to the National Rehab Hospital. And I just saw like a determination within him and a kind of stoicism in terms of under the duress of a challenge like that. And I tell you, I did 3 days with him, and it was not easy. Anybody who walks 50 kilometers in a day on hard tarmac, like this is just the first day I remember it well. My lower back was in pieces. I was never so glad to get to Ballinasloe in all my life. So and he did the next day, and the next day obviously did all 5 days in a row, and I did it kind of intermittently. So just seeing that within him, and that all those kind of traits that are needed for a big expedition, it was clear to me he was somebody that I could trust and would do the hard work and graft that is needed on the ocean. So basically I popped the question after that.
And was the answer straight away yes, Fergus, or did you hesitate, or was this something that you thought, could be one of those big life-changing goals that could give you a huge boost and fulfill your appetite for adventure and for challenges?
So I was nearly going to say no because he didn't go down to one knee when he popped the question.
But his lower back was killing him.
Yeah. But no, I think Damo remembers I said yes straight away. Like at that time, we had hoped to be doing it in 2021. So that was a year out, really, wasn't it, Damo? And, it's just, I was here like going, this is a year to challenge myself, to improve myself. I was here going, this is exactly what I need in my life to continue on the curve I was going on. And ultimately, it's come out to be a 2-year process. And I'll be honest, it has been. Look, it's been amazing for myself physically and mentally at times. But by God, it's been because it's all gone through COVID and everything else. Like it has been a massive, massive challenge in every aspect, from the fundraising to just staying connected with it throughout the whole 2 years, and just. Now, thankfully, like it's 2 months out, and it's very real, so it's very easy to stay motivated. But there was times, going back where the motivation was weighing a small bit because of the, it's so far out, But like as I said, like the minute he said yes, asked me, I was like yes, big time, and haven't regretted for 1 minute.
And how does the dynamic work between the two of you? Because you're both very strong-willed, determined characters. So when the shit hits the fan, what happens? Like if Damian's cross or Fergus is cross, what happens? How do you manage that? Because that's something that I imagine will happen out in the middle of the ocean where one or other of you get pissed off with the other. So how do you deal with it? Or how do you plan to deal with it?
We've chatted a little bit about this. Actually, it's a while since we actually have chatted about it, but we do, it's important that we understand what the stressors are and know before we even get anywhere near them how we at least endeavor to deal with them. Like it's different in the heat of the battle, but if you have a good vision beforehand of what you're going to do and how you're going to react, you have more chance of reacting that way. So that would be the first thing. And we just keep saying to ourselves, we can't bottle anything here. Like, if we bottle it, it's just going to come out somewhere down the line 10x, like, you know, so it's got to be kind of aired as quickly as possible and vented, because there's just this one relationship, right? And there's all this pressure and stress and discomfort going through it. So the reality is it's not going to be perfect. Like, there's going to be times where we are fucking pissed off at each other and we're pissed off with everything, the situation, and the other person is going to get the projection of that. So it's just really important that we're open and really bravely honest in how we deal with that in those times, you know, and just trust a little bit that the other person is going to react with compassion in that moment, you know. So I'm saying all these things and they might sound nice, but the reality is that it's incredibly difficult. So just having an image of that before we start is really important.
You mentioned the word trust there, Damian, and between the two of you, there must be a huge amount of trust for you, even pre-project timing, because Damian, you're in Australia, Fergus, you're in Ireland. You need to trust each other, that you're both 110% committed to this relationship, getting your training done, getting the nutrition, sleep, the recovery, all the factors that need to be considered for this project in the right place. So do you trust each other?
Well, without a shadow of a doubt, like this, how to say, this is, I don't know, I might be speaking out of turn, but for Damian, a lot of this stuff is I suppose, second nature. He's a long time at it. So for me, no problems in having full trust in Damo in relation to his preparation and everything. I think it would be the other way around, Damian having trust in me, which has, and I'll be openly admittedly, which has, I've given him opportunities not to fully trust me, you know, but I have given, I still believe I do give as much as I can. So I do. But as I said, from my side of things, it is, you know, this is Damian's world as such, and I've taken a lot of trust in what he's telling me how to do it and how to train and how to prepare. And I have changed a lot of things, especially now since after Christmas, especially with my sleep, my diet, you know, my rest, hydration. It's starting to pay dividends now more, which is great. I know that means we're 2 months out. You know, we've only X amount of more training sessions, but you know, for me, I have absolutely zero issues when it comes to trusting what Damo's doing on his own, and also what he's telling me how to train and how to do things. There's 100% trust from my side of things, because I see the benefits. I'm seeing the benefits every day. So what's there not to trust? And
how do your families feel about you taking on this challenge?
Like my parents and brothers and sisters, I think they're desensitized at this stage.
Maybe.
But for Roselle, and obviously not so much Elodie, as I shouldn't have the cognition, obviously, but for Roselle, it's not easy, right? Like we both really struggled when I went to Everest, you know, and that was very unfair of me, I think, you know, on reflection. But how's she going to take this? Like, I don't think it's going to be too much easier, to be honest. Like, you know, it's a long time to kind of leave her, obviously, with a 1-year-old. Yeah, I think, you know, we both kind of struggle with that. It's very new to me and emotionally traumatic in terms of how it hit me when I got to Everest. Now, I will have a little bit of I've had exposure to that now, so I don't think it'll be bad in the Atlantic, but I know it's going to be difficult. You know, even if I think of the moment we say goodbye, or like just been away, that I know that first week or two is going to be difficult, and I think it's going to be much more difficult on her part, because, you know, she's out of control. Like, I'm in control of everything I do, obviously, and I'm very secure and confident in how I do it, but she's not. You know, she's not that person, and she doesn't know, you know, what I feel and what I go through and the experiences I have. So it's more difficult for her. So listen, there's no nice way kind of to dress that up. It's just going to be really hard, particularly for her.
Like for me, my parents aren't as used to going off doing crazy things, but my parents, especially my parents and my sister, have kind of become very protective of me since my own accident, because obviously the stuff I went through, and and whatnot. So they're talking a little bit more about the challenge now, but I honestly don't think they understand the enormity of it. Just I'll be gone away for a long time. And that's it's fine with me, because that means that's less to have to worry about, because they do worry a lot about me. That's just in their nature, but for my kids, up until recently, I was quite fine with that, because I'm doing it really, to kind of want to show my kids that, if you apply yourself correctly, if you keep positive, no matter what the world throws at you, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve if you have the right mindset. And that's the big thing about this challenge for me, is that I kind of leave some sort of legacy that they can follow, that they can say that, hey, that's my dad, that's somebody I'm very proud of. So that's huge. But so over the last, cause got closer now, Bradley, my middle boy, he's very emotional. He's actually a bit like myself. You wouldn't think it, but I can be a bit emotional. But he's now mentioned a lot more and gets sad, saying Daddy's going to be away for 2-3 months. And that kind of hurts me. And then Amy, who's the eldest daughter, she's 10. She's a little bit more cool about it, but she's actually started talking more about it and stuff like that. So she's beginning to feel that, realizing that it's going to be away for 2 or 3 months. And, she's talking about more, and I think she's talking about more because, it's on her mind, which isn't great. And then I got confirmation only a few weeks ago that my boy's communion's going to be on while I'm out in the ocean. I don't mind missing a birthday, because look, there's a birthday every year, but a communion is a once in a lifetime event, and I'm going to be out in the ocean. So when I heard that, and and I told him that I wouldn't be there for him, he was very upset. But look, we've come around that. I'll bring him off and get his suit for the day, and try and get around it that way and do a video and stuff like that. So yeah, it's my parents are fine. They're kind of no problems, but my kids, they're showing a little bit of, I don't know, nervousness or curiosity that they didn't have, and definitely a little bit more emotional about it all. But because I'm doing it for them, really, they don't understand that right now, but hopefully in years' times they will. So look, I'm bouncing the bad off the good, and I think the good side of it is far outweigh the bad.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the legacy that you'll both will leave behind as part of this role will be magnificent, not only for yourselves and your families, but also for us in Galway as well. I'm going to shift the focus a little bit and talk a little bit more about the actual row itself. So how is it going to work? And talk to me about your new boat, because you've recently had the boat arrive, and you've named it as well. And I can't pronounce the name of it, but tell us a little bit about the boat and how it's all going to work. I'm really fascinated to know how this is going to work between the two of you.
So the boat was built in the UK by a master boat builder called Justin Adkin. He built my last boat, but that was a second-hand buy from me. So I didn't have that kind of direct contact that I had for the last kind of year and a half with him on this build. And this is a hand-built boat. So normally ocean rowing boats still come out of a mold, but because of the bespoke kind of design and requirements that we gave Justin, he went down the kind of really traditional way of hand building it from scratch. So that's why it took so long. And it arrived there about 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, maybe, into Galway, and we haven't actually rowed it yet. It literally came the day before I was to leave for Australia, and even at that, it didn't look like it was going to make it. We had a launch event that day, so it came 2 hours before that launch event, and we were very happy and relieved to see it. but it meant we haven't had a chance really to get out in it. But I'm home in about 10 days, and we're going to do some kind of intense training on the Atlantic. But the boat's called, and I do get a bit nervous. I'm not a fluent Irish speaker, far from it. But we went with an Irish name called Cushlamachri. That means pulse of your heart in Irish, and apparently we threw it out there on social media to our followers to kind of give suggestions. And apparently this was the name of one of the coffin ships or the famine ships that left Galway for New York, with a family called the Bodkin family from Galway abroad who made it to New York. And they, one of their ancestors wrote a book about it. We just loved the suggestion. Like, we had some phenomenal suggestions, but that was the one that really stuck out for both of us. I think it was just very synergistic for us to what we're doing. So yeah, that's the boat kind of covered. And if Gussie wants to chat about the row, and I can kind of come in as well on that.
Yeah, so it's 5,000 kilometers, New York to Galway. For the first 36 hours, the two of us will be rowing together and trying to get as far away from the Manhattan, Hudson Bay area as possible, trying to get away from the landmass to make things, that's the wrong word to use, but I suppose a little bit easier. And from that point then, we'll start rowing northeast. So we're nearly going a little bit south when we're coming out of the Hudson. Because if you look at the curvature of the landmass up around Newfoundland, if we go directly out of Hudson and hit directly for Ireland, we're actually going to be rowing kind of parallel to the landmass, which isn't ideal. That's where people get the most difficulty. So what we're going to try and do is get down this south and get out as far as possible. And then once we're out far enough, then we'll try and make a beeline for Ireland. And hopefully one of the big things which should help us is we'll try and get onto the North Atlantic Drift, which if we do, that will really help with the speed. But again, that has massive issues trying to get on that, because there's giant eddies on the side of them. And if you get caught up in one of these giant eddies, it's like a big whirlpool, and big mass whirlpool that could be 20, 30, 70 meters diameter. And you could be going around in these for a week. And you're kind of at the mercy until it spits you out. It'd be great to get into them, but as I said, it has its downfall of trying to get identified. You get a car. Then also, if we don't go far enough south, we could be going to bits of the Grand Banks, which is I suppose famous to people for the movie The Perfect Storm with George Clooney. But it's a really fertile region in the North Atlantic, and it's massive fishing boats and everything like that. But it's notorious for very, very, very thick fog. So you could be rowing through that and literally only being able to see a few foot in front of you, but at the same time still hearing about your fishing boats in a distance from you, but you have actually no idea where they are. So that could be something that's quite, fearful. Could bring in a lot of different senses. More than likely come across a couple of storms, possible of a hurricane. So there's so much that Mother Nature controls while we're out there. So we will be at that mercy. We believe we'll be conditioned well enough that if we do get the correct weather and everything goes for us, that we'll have correct conditioning and we'll be in the right place to actually go for the world record and to achieve it. But look, that's all down to Mother Nature. If Mother Nature lets us do it.
Before we go back to talk about some of the weathers and the storms and the mapping and that, what is the record?
It's 55 days and 13 hours set 126 years ago by the first people to ever row an ocean, two Norwegians who were living in America at the time and working on, I think they were kind of dockers or something in New York. And one of them had this idea that he would make them famous and they'd make their riches by rowing across the Atlantic and doing talks in London and Paris about it. And they made it. They were called Harbo and Samuelson, and they made it to London. And then they rowed then when they got to London or to the UK across to France. And unfortunately, nobody cared. They kind of went back to New York with the tails between their legs. But yeah, an incredible kind of story that, if you compare what we're doing to what they did, it's honestly, it's kind of night and day to a certain extent. Like they were in an open rowing boat. They had all their supplies, including water and canned food on the boat. And then, at night they just pull a tarp over themselves and go to sleep, so navigating with a sextant, and they still made it. And they made it 55 days and 13 hours to Scilly Isles from Manhattan. And it's been attempted 18 times since that by pair boats, and nobody's got anywhere near. A couple of Norwegians a few years ago did 58 days, but that's as close as anyone's come to breaking it. And only of those 18 boats that have attempted it, only 6 of them have actually got across the Atlantic. So it just shows you, like, those Harbone salmons and their story is just absolutely astronomically incredible. Like, but we have nothing but kind of the utmost respect, and the world record for us is it's something that gives us real direction in everything we do. But we know that, like, even if we were to break it, it doesn't compare to anything what they did, and again, just nothing but like admiration and respect for them. But it's a nice thing for us to try and aim for, and it's where our standards lie, so it gives great purpose around every decision that has to be made, and all our training and all our preparation and how we set out the boat, and every decision in the project. So but a pretty incredible story.
It's hard to believe it's 120 something years, and when you consider all of the advances that have been made over those years in terms of the boats and conditioning, training, recovery, everything we know about our bodies now that wouldn't have been known 100 years ago, or even from the materials that were used in the boat versus maybe what you guys might use. It's incredible, really. I like the idea of you having the world record as the target as well. I can kind of get that it's not just the target being to row into Galway City. I presume it's the docks you're going to try and row into in Galway, but that it gives you another sense of the time element of it, because you could say, we'll just do it and we'll just do it to finish it. But at least now you have some sort of a goal or a target to achieve. Fergus, talk to me about these weather things, because how do you deal with the hurricane or with the Gulf Stream and the North Atlantic drift if it doesn't go your way? Like, what happens out in the ocean? Do you even know?
Well, I suppose that's going to be a huge learning curve, especially for me, as I've never done anything even remotely like this. The first time I ever actually went out in the sea was a couple of years ago, or a year and a bit ago, on our Cork row from Narran Islands in. And now, obviously, Damian has a good experience from his South Atlantic row. Look at it, if a hurricane comes, like, you literally will just hunker down, put out the power anchor, and you literally hang on for dear life. There'll be a place where you can, I suppose, it's near like a seatbelt to strap yourself in so you're not thrown around the small little space you have, and you just ride it out. Now, the boat itself is a self-righting boat, so there's no issues there. And like, when you're in there, you are pretty safe. It's just a matter of, when you're being thrown around, that you're not actually physically hurting yourself or getting a head banged or whatever, that would be, I suppose, the most dangerous thing that could happen to you. And that's the same with the storms. You just literally get in the cabin, put out your power anchor, and just hang on and ride it out. And there's not much more you can do. You can't be out there, you can't be rowing. There's going to be days there where we're going to have to do that no matter what. And when we get the good days, we're just going to have to make up the mileage. And I think that's, for me anyways, and I think also for Damo, the big thing is that the world record is there just to keep us focused, to keep us moving, and to, something for us to push at, rather than just saying, we'll see what the day brings. That just doesn't sit in my mindset at all. There has to be something there in front of you to push for, to get the most out of yourself, because at the end of the day, like Damian, I don't think, like, if we can do it in under 55 days, and it does happen that way, that's great. Because I don't want to be out there for 90 days. I don't want to be out there for 100 days. I want to get home. And when I leave New York, the only thing I have in my head is obviously what we're doing right in front of us there now. But I want to get home. I want to row into that Galway docks and see people there. I want to see my family. I want to see my kids. And that's what's most important to me. So, whatever we have to do, we will just do it. And hopefully, if these storms do come or a hurricane does come, that we just hunker down, survive them, and get back rowing.
You mentioned there that for like the first 24, 36 hours, you might try and row together to get away from Manhattan. So then once you do get away and you're on the right path back to Ireland, how does it work?
Yeah, we have a pretty detailed plan around that. So basically, like first 24, 36 hours is twos up nonstop, apart from eating and a bit of documenting, because we're doing a documentary around this. And the reason is, as Gussie talked about earlier, is to get away as far away from New York and the landmass and the tidal currents and winds and all that. And then we're going to go into our default pattern, which is 2 hours on, 1 hour off. So basically that means that, say I start at 6 a.m., Gussie will come on the oars at 7 a.m. We'll row together for an hour. Then I'll get off. He'll row on his own. And we'll just cycle through that 24 hours a day until we get to the other. Well, you know, there'll be a bit of learning around this, but that's as we start, that's the plan. That's our default pattern, shift pattern. And then at night, from midnight to 3 a.m., one of us will row for that 3 hours. And then at 3 a.m. we'll swap and the other person will row to 6 a.m. So that gives us both a 3-hour window to kind of get a half decent block of sleep. And then we have other kind of shift patterns that we can consider depending on, you know, the kind of the conditions and what we're facing. But I think that's where we're at right now. So that would mean 15 hours rowing each every day, and 8 of those hours will be together. And the reason, and something we haven't touched on, and something around the world record and our goals and all that, is that we've a totally kind of innovative design in how we've set up the boat. So traditionally in ocean rowing, people sit, if there's 2 people rowing at the same time, they sit in front and behind each other, and they both have 2 oars each. What we've decided to do is give ourselves set up the boat that we can row as an individual where we both have 2 oars, or together where we only both have 1 oar each and we row side by side. So this is never, as far as we know, and Justin and the boat designer Phil Morrison, it's never been attempted or tried in ocean rowing. So there's a bit of unknown around it, but the reasoning behind it is that, so we've made the boat shorter than a normal ocean rowing boat, so it's 6.2 meters, meaning that there's less surface to water area, so less drag, so it should be faster. And then we believe that having only 1 oar each, we can put the same amount of power, if not more, into the water than if we had 2 oars each rowing together. Because what happens often in ocean rowing, or basically 90% of the time, is the boat's constantly pitching on the waves, you know. You only actually get 1 of those oars in the water because often you kind of miss the water with the other one, or you catch like a tiny slip of the blade or like a quarter of the blade, because you know you can't have obviously peripheral vision on both sides, you know, where you're placing the oars. So we believe that if we both just have 1 oar and we're just looking on that, be it the right or the left hand side, we can place the oar in the water much more accurately, get much more power through the water on every stroke. And when you are doing 1.5 million strokes, that matters and that adds up. So like I said, there's a little, as with anything that's quite innovative, right? There's a worry there, is it going to work? But also it could work out really well for us.
And what do you do with your food? How do you bring your food? Is it all dried food like you had for the Talisker Whiskey Challenge as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we have a sponsor from New Zealand, a company called Radex Nutrition, who are a phenomenal company, like really like world-class standards in what they do. And thankfully they've come on with us, and they're giving us all our meals, so, and our recovery smoothies and protein powder. And it's the same thing, right? So we're plant-based because they're plant-based, and basically it's just boiled water. And so we're bringing 60 days worth of food, 10,000 calories a day. And we've calculated that we're going to be burning about 14,000 calories a day. So there'll be a bit of a deficit, as people, pop culture likes to call it now. But like, yeah, so we're going to lose quite a bit of weight. But, you know, there's a balance there between like the speed, right, and the lightness of the boat versus you know, the calories and the weight loss, and so that's kind of where we've tried to hit the kind of sweet spot going with 60 days and 10,000 calories worth of food. And like if things go really bad for us, like that's a lot of calories, so we can ration that out. But like, sorry, to answer your question, it's just boil water and add it to the meal, and it rehydrates instantly actually with Radex. And then it's real high quality stuff. So in terms of calories and nutrients, we should be well served.
And have you practiced taking on 10,000 calories a day?
I suppose the answer to that is no.
And so my next question then would be, how are you going to deal with GI issues if you get them because of taking on so many calories? I know you're going to be burning lots of calories when you're rowing, but then how do you deal with stomach upsets or reactions or whatever, because you are taking in so many calories? And will your body be able to actually process all those calories that come in throughout the 24-hour period?
Yeah, we'll trial this, when we get out on the water in a few weeks in Galway, and firstly just to see how we react to the meals at sea. Now it's probably a little bit of an unfair kind of trial in terms of we probably won't react very well because none of us we haven't been on the sea since we did the Kirk Row that Gussie talked about. But at the same time, it has to get done. You get a good feel for in terms of taste and in terms of like tolerance to the taste, like if this is something you can deal with for 2 months, and then we'll run through the plan is to just kind of do as many dress rehearsals as we can in terms of processes and all that sort of stuff. So we'll run through it and see how it goes. But the reality is that there's going to be great discomfort in this expedition, and ideally, so we're taking in 3,200 calories worth of dehydrated meals, but the other 6,800 calories is as close to kind of food that we eat day to day as possible. So it's all snacks, right? Things like things that are real calorie dense. So things like loads of nut butters, like be it almond, cashew, hazelnut, protein powders, MCT oil, olive oils. Things again coming back to density of calories, and then like protein bars, flapjacks, and then we have little treats as well. So I think the thing is not to move too much away from that should help as well in terms of dealing with any issues that come about. But there quite possibly might be there anyway, and there might not be a lot we can do about it.
What are you most looking forward to?
For me, it's definitely about getting pushing off, and so again, I'm huge into visualization. So the big thing is for me is there's three things: pushing off and eventually getting the Manhattan, New York landscape out of vision, out of sight. Second one will be just seeing what sort of wildlife actually we encounter while we're out there and how close it is and how personal that contact gets. That's a big thing. And then thirdly, it's about seeing the Iron Islands and going for it. Just getting in, those last few hours or however long it takes. But they're the three massive things that I visualized about, and I hope what I'm visualizing materializes. So yeah, they're the three big things that I'm looking forward to.
We'll have to set out the bonfires. You'll have to get the residents out in the Aran Islands and all the way in along the coast from Connemara to have the bonfires lighting when you're coming in, whether it's the middle of the day or the middle of the night. Damian, for you, what are you most looking forward to?
There's something very special about putting your heart and soul into something and actually making it happen. I've had this experience with a few things I've done. Things that come up for me is the Mountain de Sable and my solo Atlantic row in 2017. That moment when you start is very, very special emotionally, just some sort of peak experience, So that leaving New York and getting that push away and out into the Hudson and, past Battery Park and past the Statue of Liberty. And then something that came up a lot for me. And I remember when we rode the Curragh from Inishowen into the docks, when we passed Mutton Island, I remember thinking, fuck me, what is this going to be like in 2 years' time, when we come in here? And it hit me hard then, and I'm getting a bit emotional now thinking about it. I just think that is just going to be the most incredible feeling when we get to Galway. So, yeah, and if what I'm feeling now is anything to go by, I think it's just going to be extraordinary, so that is something to look forward to say the least.
And Damian, have you learned to swim since you rode the Atlantic?
No, not just yet. But at least this time I have somebody on the boat with me who doesn't also know how to swim. So
I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I have one more question for you, just out of pure curiosity. But I know it's an unsupported row for you two guys out in the middle of the ocean, but I presume there will be support on land giving you guidance or advice of weather and things like that coming in, or is that something that actually is even factored into the row?
Yeah, so we do have a really good guy, Chris Martin. He's going to be the weather router for us. So he'll be giving us information on a day-to-day basis. But he's actually give us a rough mileage each day, what we should do. It's just another way of us dividing down the challenge on a day-to-day basis according to the weather that we're meant to be encountering. So I think that's going to be a really another good thing to keep us really focused. And that Chris Martin has rowed not just one but several oceans. So really top weather router. Yeah, we'd be in really good hands there. And he's very, very important to the whole row. So he's extremely important.
And if any of the audience listening into the show want to support you, is there any fundraising that's being done, or how can they support you? Are we following on Instagram and Facebook, or what's the story?
Yeah, so well, unfortunately, I think this podcast is going to go out a bit too late for an immediate support thing that we're doing at the moment, which is a competition for one person one person plus one to come to New York, and be the person who pushes the boat away. But outside of that, we have big plans to kind of share this journey as we go. So kind of similar to what I did before, bringing a unit called a BGAN, which is a broadband satellite uplink, where we can link onto the satellite and send like little photos and little videos home. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to do. I have my own podcast that I did in Everest, and I'm going to do that again on the row. So daily kind of review of what we've gone through that day. It's called Deep Roots Podcast. So people can definitely follow us. And I think if they're getting anything from us, is just to share what we're doing, and the more people, the more eyes we can get on this and what we're trying to achieve, just the better, because then we have, propensity and capacity to touch people with what we're trying to achieve. And the ultimately, like we both have touched on here in the conversation, is leave that kind of lasting legacy.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Fergus in Galway, Damian in Brisbane in Australia. It's been a pleasure chatting to you both. I can't wait to see how things all unfold, and I need to put the date in the diary that you're going to be coming back into Galway, because I'll be there to welcome you home. The very best of luck with all of the rest of your training and preparation. I can't wait to see you come back into Galway.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's great to be on.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. You can get in touch with any feedback or guest suggestions by emailing me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. You can follow all of our activities and podcasts on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram. Pop by and say hi and let me know what you think of the show. If you're new to Try Talking Sport, please do check out some of our previous episodes. You will be impressed and inspired by our guests. Finally, be sure to sign up to our new e-zine featuring articles of interest, some great discounts and the inside track on supporting your triathlon and endurance sport journey wherever it may take you. Sign up on trytalkingsport.com, takes 30 seconds, and I promise I won't bombard your inbox with emails, just the good stuff. Until next time, stay safe, keep smiling, and remember to look for fun and adventure in every day.